Hey everybody, Resident Loser Jeremy here. Sad day at the studio. An old friend moving out, retiring, I guess. Here he is. This Mac trash can has been with me running this business for about 7 or 8 years. And it's time to move on. Bring on the cheese gravy. Here's a little bit of the unboxing process when I got this behemoth of a computer. Absolutely enormous. The packaging was unlike anything I've ever experienced. This thing could have been dropped into the Grand Canyon and been just fine. Anyway, here you go. Hey guys, I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. If you've never watched one of my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there. Follow me on Instagram if you like. I post there fairly often. But I wanted to talk today about the transition that I'm making from my old computer, Mac trash can, which I had for 7, 8, I don't even remember. And I've used it and I've pushed it to its limits almost every day for those 7, 8 years, whatever the case may be. I know my options were kind of souping this computer up as far as it could go. I'd already changed the CPU on this. I've already added a ton of RAM on this computer. I know I can get an eGPU and run it that way, but as far as longevity goes, there were some definite concerns there with that amount of investment. So it made sense to upgrade. And if I'm in the Mac ecosystem, I could get the Mac 5.1, the old tower, but it made sense to go with the cheese grater. It catches a lot of hate, just like the trash can did before it. Some of it's warranted, but I feel like some of these computers are meant for professional situations, where if these computers aren't making money for you, they're not really meant for you, as harsh as that kind of sounds. I didn't see a whole lot of stuff on YouTube as far as the transition to one of these new Mac Pros and what that looks like for a studio, like a recording studio like myself, someone who deals professionally in music and production and mixing and mastering and things like that. So I wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on what that looked like. I'm not going to talk about specifics. If you want to get nerdy, there's plenty of videos that are nerdy out there. I'm hoping to kind of describe what I did in that transition and if it was smooth, if it wasn't smooth. So I've got a session pulled up here, and just to give you an example of the differences I've got going on, can't really play this because I don't know that this has been released yet. This is a session that's done. The masters have been delivered, the master was delivered, but the mix was enormous. A ton of tracks, a ton of software tracks, which is always taxing on any computer that you're going to be working with. And I mean, we are using Pro Tools HD here, so there is some DSP that can be handled by that chip itself. There's a lot going on for the computer, and I was to the point with this mix where there were definitely things I was committing and I was printing onto tracks to save that CPU, but the whole session was just pegged. Shutdown after shutdown, and there are some things you can do to mitigate that, but just to show the difference in the systems, I'm playing this right now and I'm sitting at like a 19%, and the system is very responsive. I can switch and do all this fun stuff and stop, play, stop, play, stop, play. I mean, things that just would have been awful to this point. And by the way, I'm sitting at 128 samples. Now, I don't know if this will play at 64 samples. Oof. I mean, to be fair, that's asking a lot from the computer to play an entire mix with this much stuff that I could not play with my hardware buffer maxed out on my other computer. Would barely play at all. Now, I'm not only doing that and getting a better result, but at 64 samples, it's playing. It doesn't like it, but it'll play it. Still, 128 samples. If you have some things that aren't going crazy as far as delay compensation, you could track on a finished mix. And just to show you what we've got going on under the hood, here is what we've got. This is the Mac Pro 2019. I'm running Catalina 1015.2, which seems very stable. I only lost one plugin, and I can live without it. So I've got a 3.2 16 core, and we're running 96 gigs of RAM. It's a 3216 core. I'm coming from having, I upgraded the CPU on my old trash can last year to a 12 core, and I believe it was like a 2.4 12 core. I'm astonished with the difference between these two processors and the amount of lifting that it can do effortlessly. And I don't know if the larger case has anything to do with it, but this would get unbelievably hot very quick because I'm just pushing it, and especially right up here where all the air is coming out the top, this thing would get hot even before the CPU upgrade. I feel like the thermals in there were just limited based on the design itself, where I'm not noticing any throttling whatsoever with this new machine. And those fans, even when they're pegged, cannot hear them. Can't hear them. They're silent. It's sitting right here on the floor, and I cannot hear these fans when they're pegged. But just to be able to play a session like this with this amount of ease is astonishing to me. Now, through the process, I opted for a clean install. Macs, they make it really easy with Time Machine. If you have a hard drive set up to be your Time Machine, it basically takes a backup of your whole computer, and I could have, if I wanted to, the Time Machine from my trash can and put it on this new one, but it would bring over literally everything, all of my preferences, all of the things I have in my library. It would bring all of my plugins over, which would be convenient, but I didn't want to introduce any conflicts that would come from that computer to the new computer, so I opted for a clean install. Any issues you may have had with conflicting software that you're just no longer using anymore just don't exist. However, when you're operating as a music professional with something like Pro Tools or Cubase or whatever, Logic, and you have a whole lot of plugins, that process can seem daunting. But there's kind of a workaround. If you're willing to spend 3 or 4 hours, you can use Pro Tools Helper, Pete Gates. Here you go. This is just PeteGates.com, and if you've never used this and you have Pro Tools, this can make your life so much easier. So we're going to download the new version here, get this installed, and it's really that simple. Just drag it to your applications folder. I've already got one in there, so let's go ahead and stop. Now, this will do a lot for you as far as crashing and Pro Tools and whatnot. If you're having issues with your preferences folder, you can literally one-click trash all of your preferences, and 90% of the time that fixes your errors. Most of the time with stuff like this, Pro Tools is just doing what you tell it to do. This can at least give you a fresh start, and all you have to do is go back and kind of redo your preferences. For what I was using it for in this situation, you can click this little music note up here that says plugins. Scan plugins. Boom. There you go. I have a list of every plugin. It's giving me the version number, whether it's active or not. And what I did with that information was I printed it out, all these sheets of paper with all these plugins on it, and I went through one by one. There's a lot of plugins here. It was 5 pages. Oh, I dropped a few. 5 pages, front and back, and I just went through one by one. The good part about some of these plugins now, they have host applications that will install everything that was on your account. That's pretty dope. So all in all, it wasn't hard to do at all. It actually went fairly quick given how many plugins I was doing. I don't know what 5 pages of a numbers sheet at like 3 font is on front and back. I don't know. There's a lot of plugins there, but it really didn't take that much time. And the benefit was I'm not getting any issues that I'm bringing over from my old system. So this system runs smooth. Pro Tools preferences, download this. PeteGates.com. This thing is awesome. So where am I back in the whole scheme of things? As soon as I brought the computer back, as I took it home to do all that stuff, all the downloading, especially the virtual instruments, like native instruments and output stuff, I brought the computer back, a few little tweaks, and it's running like nothing changed, albeit a lot faster, a lot better. I can commit an entire mix in the blink of an eye, which I really, really like. Ultimately, this is going to make everything so much faster for me on both the video side and the music production side. From a convenience standpoint, this got rid of a whole lot of extra housings that I had for my Pro Tools HD gear, different converters that I needed, and it's all now installed into the computer itself. Obviously, you cannot do with this trash can because there are no PCI slots. So this got rid of a bunch of external PCIe housings that I would use and use those via Thunderbolt to get all of my signal into my computer. So the resale on those things alone make up a significant portion of the purchase of a new computer, and I'm getting a new computer. If you're in a situation like this, it's really not far-fetched. It's not as far-fetched as some would make it. It is an expensive computer. This is a professional level computer. Should the normal consumer get this to just do songwriting stuff? Absolutely not. This is way too much computer for that. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to share with you a little bit of my experience in switching computers. It seems like it can be very daunting and it seems like a very scary thing to get into, but really it was pretty painless. And ultimately with the sale of the computer and the peripherals that I no longer need, it's not going to be that much of a purchase, especially if you know how to install your own RAM or if you can upgrade your own CPU, which on this Mac, you can upgrade almost anything you want, and that is fantastic. All in all, this is a crazy good computer. If you're somebody who needs that horsepower to do what you do, to make money, to run your business, it's not a bad decision to make. Loser approved. Anyway, guys, I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more from me. Hit the bell while you're down there if you want to be notified every time I put out a video. We do tutorials. We do tips and tricks. I take you on little one mic adventures, recording a song with only one mic. But all in all, if you liked the video, hit the like button. And if you didn't, maybe you need a CPU upgrade. Anyway, guys, Resident Loser Jeremy. I'll see you in the next one.